So let's talk about a game called Deathbound that I was graciously given a key for. Gonna make this a first impressions video, not going beyond that first real boss fight, so I can save my more kinda maybe spoilery thoughts for a full review. Deathbound is a Souls-like game with a unique twist. You start with one character, but unlock more as the game goes on, with me having 3 to play with by the time the first boss fight occurs. Although all 3 characters do have vastly different playstyles, the best part about all 3 is that they're all treated as separate people. They have some unique upgrades, skills, and builds each. They share health upgrades, but they don't share health pools, so you can switch from one character to another in the middle of combat whenever it seems as if one is about to die. But if you let one die, then it's game over for them all. They have different types of synergies with one another. Some characters react positively in some situations and debuff each other in others, which can make or break encounters. Whether it's causing health to drain from the others whenever one heals, giving everyone poison weapons, letting inactive characters heal whenever one in use gets a kill, you get the idea. They aren't crutches used to survive. They are characters with their own goals, beliefs, strengths, weaknesses, and motivations that all need taken into account. Plus, when a sync bar is filled, you can switch characters after you attack and do a super powerful move, which is also pretty cool. The first and main character is a Knight of Death, a follower of the Lady of Death who is extremely devoted to his more traditional religious ways, even to the point that he would personally execute his family for not mindlessly upholding them. Even so, he's surprisingly likable and not treated as ignorant to the real world. Sure, he's biased, which he has to come to grips with as the story goes on and he interacts with more people, but he's intelligent and sees the world through a lens that still does make sense. His fighting style is the typical Templar Knight type of style. He uses a sword and shield capable of blocking as well as parrying. After a parry, he can counter with an attack that insta-kills, so he's super useful when things seem dire. He has quick slashes and heavy attacks, as well as can be upgraded to tank more damage. Sure, his basic attacks are kinda basic. Surprising, right? But I enjoy using him and he doesn't get old before the new characters are unlocked. The second is a girl that has had to endure suffering due to the Death Knights like the one that she is now bound with. The knights that caused that harm in her past were scum and didn't uphold the order that they were bound to, willing to take bribes and extort those around them, which shows a lot about her character that she doesn't automatically equate our knight as monsters like them. She is definitely more of a rogue or an assassin type character in terms of combat. She has a one-handed sword as well as a crossbow with limited bolts and an extremely slow reload time. It's too slow and would be better balanced out by being able to reload one bolt at a time and quickly stop when needing to, which we cannot do as of right now, and it does really hurt the flow of combat. A flow of combat that is extremely important in regards to this character specifically. She's speedy but deals less damage, so needs to perform more attacks. Her ranged attacks exist, but since she is immobile when performing them as well as reloading them, they should be used sparingly. She is the character that has the backstab capability though, so she can start combat by eliminating at least one of the enemies if done correctly, but the enemy placement so far doesn't support it in too many scenarios. Plus, I think stealth is the only way that backstabs work, so unlike the counterattack of the knight, it isn't going to be a game changer once the combat begins. The third character has ranged attacks and is the reason poison applications exist like I brought up earlier, but he feels like a spoiler so I won't show who he is or what he does. He's my least favorite of the 3 though gameplay wise, so far anyway, and his character feels the most naive as well, which I haven't had much time with him, so we'll see how they approach this aspect of his character. His sister means the world to him and they defended each other a lot, so the outcome of her fate is most likely going to be a big part of his story in the future. When it comes to the story in general, the main bad guys so far are still a mystery. Every faction has good and bad, and who seems to be the main threat may be more than meets the eye. Unlike most Souls games, this story isn't based off of lore alone. There are multiple kinds of cutscenes that progress the story and unravel the mystery. From artistic ones such as this, to the average cutscenes like these, to flashback sequences similar to what you would find in the Division games, there's multiple ways that the story is told. Although I love piecing the lore of the world together in most Souls games, Bloodborne especially, having a Souls-like game where we actually get told the story is nice as well. It's a breath of fresh air compared to many of the others I've played in the genre. Right now we're just setting things up, putting out the dots to connect them in the future. The aspect of different cultures in different factions, clashing as well as coexisting, works surprisingly well here, demonstrated very well with how our playable characters interact with one another as the story unfolds around them. Just like in most games in the genre, experience is lost after death and needs to be recovered. There is a sort of bonfire system where you can upgrade things, heal, replenish health items, and respawn the enemies. It also acts as a checkpoint system as well, so when you die, that's where you will respawn. Nothing new here in that regard, so far anyway. I like the music. The first location outside of the prologue is fine, if kinda bland, and I don't have any real complaints about anything control-wise, even though I wish I could map my controller in the way that I want and put whatever attacks wherever I want them to be, but it's alright and it's not really something that's going to drag down the experience. One of the biggest issues I have when it comes to the gameplay though is that attacking without being locked on is kinda trash. There are moments when I missed attacks point blank that should have definitely landed, as well as moments when the lock-on chose an enemy far away instead of the one closest to me, which caused my first death and really sucked. The enemy variety so far isn't too bad, from spear throwers to enemies with shields, to axe-wielding enemies, to enemies that throw elemental explosives, to giant spiders with self-destruction capabilities, to small spiders with a lot of speed that explode instantly at close range and deal damage. The main grunts are all pretty varied and can be menaces when in groups. The enemies that act as more of elites are kind of annoying too, from this shield guy that I kinda panicked when fighting and was lucky to defeat, to this arachnid from Transformers Prime looking sucker that took my life after a surprise attack. They can be menaces when you aren't expecting them and even when you do. When it comes to the consumables, I've honestly never used a single one besides the average healing item. I usually don't use them in games, just not my preferred way to play, and I haven't ran into a situation where it has felt beneficial to step out of my comfort zone in order to squeeze out a victory. I'll try and experiment with them for the full review, but no promises that I'll do them the justice that they deserve. Anyway, in terms of first impressions, I think that's all I have to say. I wanted to share some quick thoughts so I could shed some light on the game as spoiler-free as possible, while also taking my time and actually enjoying it, finding everything I can find, piecing together the world, and seeing how it all stacks up by the end. If it interests you, then check it out, and for more news, reviews, and whatever we choose, stay tuned to Nerdsfeed. Have a great day. Thank you.